While not being as powerful as the Federation or the Klingon Empire, the Cardassian Union of the Star Trek universe was still able to put up a good fight in conflicts. The majority of their space conflicts were fought using the Galor-class Warship, which was the primary starship used by the Interstellar power. But what made these ships powerful, and what was the origin behind their design? To celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Star Trek universe, we're taking a look at some of the most iconic starship designs. Today, we're exploring the Galor-class. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm Captain Jack. If you're interested in Star Trek news, lore, and more, this is the place for you. Don't forget, you can support our video development by becoming a patron. The link's down below, and we greatly appreciate your support. While you're watching, what would you name your Galor-class starship in Star Trek? Comment your answer below. Let's make it so. Introduced sometime in the 24th century, the Galor-class cruiser was commonly referred to as the warship of the Cardassian military, not to be confused with the Obsidian Order. On occasion, Starfleet would refer to this class of ship as a destroyer, even sometimes classing it as a medium cruiser. However, that was during the Dominion War. Coming in at 371.88 meters long, the Galor-class typically carried a crew of 300 to 600 personnel. The Galor-class's overall appearance was somewhat shaped like an Egyptian ankh symbol. Think along the lines of a half-moon structure atop the primary hull. Interestingly, the symbol of the Cardassian Union was the same similar anchor shape, which is probably why the Galor was designed like this. A symbol of a Cardassian's government in the form of a starship. The half-moon style structure sat atop the primary hull, which also made up the starship's port and starboard blades. This also contained the warp nacelles. On top of this, there was an additional structure with a bridge located inside. The deflector array of the Galor-class was the main part of the design, located on the bow of the starship. The hull type of the Galor-class was so well designed, in the Cardassians' opinion, that the main component was used in the design of the Keldon-class counterparts. These Keldon ships utilized Galor-class space frames with additional structures on the rear and main body. We'll discuss the Keldon-class another time here on the Trek Central channel. In terms of propulsion, the Galor-class has been observed as being able to reach Warp 9.6. Tactical system-wise, the Galor-class sported numerous phaser arrays. Typically, Cardassian phaser fire was originally pink, but later improvers made it yellow. While using phasers, it has been noted that some Galor-class starships would make use of spiral wave disruptors. There would also be one large aft disruptor. While an impressive armament, the starship was still considered inferior to the likes of the Federation's Galaxy class. However, both their defense systems of shields and hull strength combined with their weapons made them very effective against Miranda-class starships and Klingon birds of prey. The shield generators of the Galor-class were located in the aft section, notably in the tail where the prong was attached. At one point in time, it seems the Cardassians might have experimented with photon or plasma torpedoes. In the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Ensign Ro, two Type 3 Galor-class warships fired a weapon that resembled something along the lines of a photon or plasma torpedo. No description of the weapon was ever given. It has also never been seen again since. Therefore, we theorize that this is like an experimental fit for these ships, and that not every Galor-class carries the same weapons seen here. Galor-class warships have been described as quick and powerful, yet some adversaries note that their targeting systems could be easily fooled, allowing for a quick strike. Overall, Cardassian technology was still somewhat behind the Federation. A prime example of this occurred in 2367. Galor-class warships, and presumably other ships in their fleet, lacked the ability to read Federation starship transponder codes. The Federation did possess this technology. Thankfully for the Cardassians, they were granted this ability by Captain Jean-Luc Picard, due to a crisis at the time with the Nebula-class USS Phoenix. In terms of interior layouts, the Galor-class featured your typical Cardassian layout. The captain's chair, or rather Gold's chair, was raised in a position so that the commanding officer could oversee everyone underneath them. It's unclear when the Galor-class starships were officially commissioned and brought into service by the Cardassian military. We know they were in operation by 2367. However, the Federation-Cardassian Wars, otherwise known as the Cardassian Border Conflict, took place between 2347 and 2366. It is likely that the Galor-class starships were somewhat active towards the end of this conflict, but we do not know that for certain. A Galor-class starship engaged the Galaxy-class USS Enterprise D, which was under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard in 2367. This was during a situation on the Cardassian border, involving the Nebula-class USS Phoenix. Captain Benjamin Maxwell had gone rogue, and was attacking Cardassian outposts and starships. The commander of the Galor-class, Gul Macet, informs Picard that his species has been attacked by a Federation starship. It's at this point that Picard makes clear how much more powerful the Enterprise D, a Galaxy class, is compared to the Galor-class.
The alternative is for us to continue firing into one another. And in such a contest, you would be at a disadvantage.
It's unclear if Gul-Macet sent Galor-class warships to intercept the USS Phoenix, as they weren't made light work of by the Federation starship. Given that Macet reported that the warship had a crew complement of 600, it's safe to assume that it could have been a Galor-class ship that was destroyed by the Rogue Nebula class. Eventually, this situation was diffused, with Captain Maxwell standing down and being confined to quarters aboard the Enterprise. Maxwell did believe that the Cardassians were secretly rearming and preparing for another conflict. While this could not be proved at the time, Jean-Luc Picard did leave Gul-Macet with a warning.
Take this message to your leaders, Gul-Macet. We'll be watching.
In 2368, the USS Enterprise D had another run-in with multiple Galor-class warships. This was part of a covert alliance that Vice Admiral Kennelly entered into with the Cardassians to eliminate a Bajoran terrorist cell. Ultimately, it turned out that the Cardassians had been manipulating the Admiral. Picard was able to lure out the Cardassians and the conspiracy was exposed. Jean-Luc later speculated that the Admiral would probably be court-martialed for his illegal actions. The Galor-class warships would make a few other appearances in the lead-up to 2369. Galor-class cruisers were hovering around the area after the Cardassians retreated from Bajor, and when the Federation took command of the formerly Cardassian space station above Bajor, known as Terok Nor, now officially renamed Deep Space Nine. Following the Enterprise D delivering a new station commander, Benjamin Sisko, to the area and departing, a Galor-class warship under the command of Gul Dukat entered the system. Dukat's Galor-class remained near Deep Space Nine, telling the new commander of Deep Space Nine that he would offer help if they needed it, but instead would investigate the Bajoran wormhole, which would be discovered soon after. With the outbreak of the Dominion War, the Cardassians allied themselves with the Dominion. As such, the Galor-class warship became the main starship used in fleets and engagements throughout the war. While not being as technologically advanced as Federation Galaxy-class ships, or even the Dominion's own fleet, the Galor-class still fought well in a good deal of engagements with other starships. Notably, it was effective against lighter Federation ships such as the Miranda-class. In 2374, the Monac shipyards were where a number of Galor-class vessels were being constructed. As a primary shipyard during the Dominion War, this location became a large target for the Alpha Quadrant alliance of the Federation, Klingons, and eventually Romulans. In 2375, a large Klingon fleet attempted to attack and destroy the shipyards, but failed. Eventually, these shipyards were destroyed due to solar plasma ejection from the Monac sun, caused by Klingons General Martok and Lieutenant Commander Worf on board the bird of prey IKS Rotaran. As the war began to fail for the Dominion and the Cardassian side, the Cardassians switched sides and fought back against the Dominion forces of the Vorta, Changelings, Jem'Hadar, and Breen. Dozens of Galor-class warships suddenly joined the Federation fleet in attacking other Dominion ships. As such, the Federation and allied ships were able to break the Dominion lines and continue onwards to Cardassia Prime. After the Dominion War had ended, with Cardassia Prime in rubble and billions of Cardassians dead, what became of the Galor-class starship is unknown. Whether the Cardassian Union would be disarmed or not allowed to have warships is unknown, as the only Cardassian vessels seen in use after the Dominion War are Hideki-class starships, and by 2380, the Cardassian Union would have an upgraded version of those much more smaller, multi-purpose starships. Given the heavy presence of the Cardassians in Deep Space Nine, it's no wonder that the Galor-class became such a recognizable ship in the Star Trek universe. But how did the ship come to be designed? Well, it was first introduced in Star Trek The Next Generation. While making its debut in The Wounded, it was first named in the episode Ensign Rowe. With the introduction of the Cardassians in The Next Generation, a new starship was needed. This task fell to senior illustrator Rick Sternbach. To design what would become the iconic Galor-class, Sternbach produced a series of rough sketches. Eventually, producers would select one of the sketches, and Sternbach would move to create it to a more detailed drawing. Usually, this would then be approved. However, the Galor-class was different. Sternbach previously revealed that the design underwent a major revolution. Originally, it was very bland and somewhat pedestrian. Upon comparing the original design to the USS Enterprise D, the producers told Sternbach to give him something weird. Sternbach went back to the drawing board and ended up making a mental connection between the Cardassians and the Egyptian pharaohs. This is how the Galor-class ends up looking like the Ankh symbol. Ultimately, the Galor-class is a departure from the usual starship style in Star Trek. Model makers Ed Moriarty and Tom Hudden would go on to create the studio model for the Galor-class at their model shop. This was called science fiction and model making. The pair had just 3 weeks to build a model for the production team. The Galor-class was one of the most complex model constructions the team had ever worked on. The basic frame of the ship was made of aluminium and features complex lighting circuits that illuminate the impulse engines, windows, and navigational deflectors. The final model was 37 inches long, and according to both Moriarty and Hudson, it featured their initials in the detailing. This model would appear in 7 episodes of The Next Generation, 2 episodes of Star Trek Voyager, and multiple episodes of Starship Deep Space Nine. Now, for the last 2 seasons of Deep Space Nine, the Galor-class was a CG model. The physical model was sent to Foundation Imaging and was used as a reference by Brandon McDougall, who built a CG model. The real model of the Galor-class was sold at the 40 Years of Star Trek for Collection auction for $24,000 in 2006, which, in my opinion, is a very nice way to end its journey, at least for now. Though I kinda want it on my shelf. So, that's our breakdown of a Cardassian Galor-class warship, a mighty design for the Star Trek universe, and one that is very impressive. A big thank you to everyone who has supported us on Patreon. Your support allows us to continue making these Galaxy-class videos. Consider supporting us by clicking the link below. So, what should we cover next? If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack here on Trek Central, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.